Okay. Let's further talk about the true cost of keeping the Byrde family alive, specifically focusing on the death of Ruth. As we all know by now, Ruth's decision of seeking vengeance and killing Javi was a big mistake. I mentioned before that the bobcats we see before Ruth kills Javi was a callback to the bobcats Ruth set free in season 2. By opening the cage for the animals, Ruth was giving the bobcats a choice, while at the same time trying to convince herself that she doesn't have to follow the Langmore legacy, that she can be free of this Langmore curse, and that she still has a choice. In season 4 episode 8, The Cousin of Death, Ruth has to make a choice between choosing violence or not killing Javi and focusing on her newly obtained wealth and life. If she chooses not to kill him, she would own a bunch of land and be running the casino, buying her any kind of life she wanted. The choice of seeking vengeance would lead her down the same path as her father and the rest of the Langmores, as they all recklessly committed violent acts and ended up dead for it. During Ruth's conquest to kill Javi, Ruth is listening to rap music the same way that she did earlier in the series. You know, during the times where her father was very controlling over her life and she felt kind of trapped. The music she was listening to back then was I Got a Story to Tell and Somebody's Gotta Die by Notorious Big. I feel like the selection of those two songs was pretty intentional, especially when it comes to the titles. To me, the use of I Got a Story to Tell seems to be representative of how Ruth has an iceberg-sized history of abuse and trauma given to her by her father, Cade, and Somebody's Gotta Die was also hinting at her father, as Cade dies at the end of that season. Ruth has a mini breakdown over Wyatt's death, so she takes a beat and then gets back into the car, takes out a CD, puts it into the disc tray, and starts playing New York State of Mind by Nas. And when on her way to Chicago, she's listening to Represent and Life's a Bitch, you guessed it, by Nas. All of these songs are off of Nas's 1994 album Illmatic, an album about Nas being raised in Queens, New York, specifically being raised in the Queensbridge houses. In New York State of Mind, Nas is reflecting on his upbringing in Queens being burdened with urban poverty and gang violence. You know, just like this one character who's grown accustomed to gang violence and death and poverty. When at the cafe, Ruth runs into Killer Mike. You may know this absolute legend of a man from the hip-hop super duo known as Run the Jewels, or RTJ. RTJ's Nobody Speak played at the end of season 1 episode 3 My Dripping Sleep, and their song Ooh La La played at the end of the season 3 finale All In. Killer Mike borrows Ruth's headphones to hear that she's listening to Nas's New York State of Mind, and Killer Mike reflects on that song, saying,
"These projects are in Queens and you can kind of see Manhattan, and I've always thought it was so hopeful and cruel at the same time."
Reflecting on the cruel juxtaposition of the Queensbridge houses being right here and Manhattan being right here. Killer Mike tells Ruth to go easy on the coffee, to which Ruth responds,
I never sleep.
Quoting a lyric from New York State of Mind, I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. This episode of Ozark is even named after that lyric, so why not take a deeper look into the verse surrounding this lyric? And I feel like these lyrics right here are the ones that really sum up what I'm trying to say. Inhale deep like the words of my breath, I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. I lay puzzle as I backtrack to earlier times, nothing's equivalent to the New York State of Mind. Nas wrote this when he was in LA reflecting on his time in New York, and Ruth claims that Nas makes it seem like he hates it, referring to New York, but at the same time he misses it. I think the lyric nothing's equivalent to the New York State of Mind is indicative of that very thing. Ruth also claims that Nas was 20 at the time, as Nas was around Ruth's age when Illmatic came out. Ruth saying that she never sleeps solidifies that she very much relates to Nas's struggles when he was her age. The character of Ruth shares a lot of commonalities with New York State of Mind and Illmatic, so I think Ruth pointing out that Nas misses Queens but also hates it at the same time is the good indication that Ruth hated her upbringing, yeah, but at that point in her life, she was having trouble with letting go of the past because it was all she knew. Ruth was on the cusp of becoming something more. The Langmore property was her version of the projects, and she was leaving for Manhattan, to put it in a more metaphorical kind of way. Ruth should have listened to 3 when he told her to just come on home, because Wyatt would have hated the fact that Ruth was seeking revenge. Plus, Wyatt definitely understood the potential consequences of getting involved with someone like Darlene. I'm pretty sure Wyatt lost all of his innocence when he buried the body of a semi-innocent person for Darlene. And I'm not saying that Wyatt asked for it, though I'm not saying the inverse. But anyway, I digest. Before her death, Ruth is listening to the song They Reminisce Over You by Pete Rock and CL Smooth. According to this 2007 Village Voice interview with Pete Rock, They Reminisce Over You was a song written after a friend of Pete Rock's passed away. He claims that it was a shock to the community. I was kind of depressed when I made it, and to this day, I can't believe I made it through the way I was feeling. feeling. I guess it was for my boy. And in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, one of the showrunners of Ozark, Chris Mundy, explained the reasoning behind the song selection of They Reminisce Over You, saying it was kind of always that song. I just kept coming back to it. It was a great moment in her life at that point. She's happy, she doesn't know what's coming. The music needed to be upbeat, sentimental but not corny, talking about family and the past. She's moving past Wyatt and into whatever her future is going to be. Those two things needed to fuse together and be as joyful as they possibly could for her last song. Ruth was finally pulling through and moving past Wyatt, starting a new life and throwing away that belief that she's a cursed Langmore. The hip-hop rap music, as well as Illmatic, emphasized that Ruth was giving into her past, which would hold her down and inevitably kill her. Anyway, speaking of Camilla killing people, at the beginning of season 4, episode 14, A Hard Way to Go, Marty checks in with Camilla about her brother Omar getting transferred, implying that the FBI is going to stage the event of Omar trying to escape, giving them enough reason to kill him so that Camilla could take over the cartel and they could all continue that one money seizure deal. Camilla didn't want to put anything into motion until she spoke with the FBI so that they could give her their assurance face to face. Then the FBI begins the meeting, immediately confirming with Camilla that the FBI is going to transfer, as in kill Omar. Everyone leaves the meeting satisfied, meaning Camilla was satisfied with the deal of ending Omar's life. So the other day, actor Rick Perez, aka Silva, aka the man who took down Omar Navarro, kindly reached out to me on Instagram. Perez claimed that his role as Silva was intended to represent Camilla's version of Nelson. In his words, Navarro had Nelson and Camilla had Silva. He further explains that he was told he was impersonating an officer and was sent in as Camilla's main hitman to take out her brother so that she could then take over the cartel. Camilla already had someone in prison to make the first attempt on Omar's life, and she had other guards paid off, like these two right here who just walk away as Omar is being attacked. So this isn't the first time Camilla's had someone on the inside. I replied, saying here I am thinking Silva's just working for the FBI. I was assuming that Silva had no connection to Camilla, as Camilla was the one who had to give the okay to the FBI's plan to kill Navarro, an idea that was pitched to her by Marty and Wendy. So what Perez was saying was implying that Camilla had way more control over the situation than previously thought. I mean, based on this information, she probably had everything figured out from the beginning. It was Camilla who convinced Wendy and Marty to pitch her that idea of taking over the deal that Omar and Javi previously had, which would make sense because Camilla worked for Navarro at one point. She even claims that he was a good boss, meaning she learned all about how to get to the top, even if it means screwing over your family. Perez also pointed out that Camilla's son Javi was logically taught by her to be who he was, bringing up Ruth's final scene where she states that she knows where her son gets it from. So Camilla had way more influence over the situation than previously thought. Anyway, I love that an actor can be so passionate about the show that they worked on that they would reach out like this. We start the series with Marty Byrde laying out the facts that half of Americans have more credit card debt than they do savings. A quarter of Americans have no savings at all, and 15% of the population is on track to fund just 1 year of retirement. Ozark begins during the decline of the US economy, where the middle class is vanishing and the American dream is dead. It's sort of the less bad version of the society we currently live in. And that's what the Byrde family is meant to represent, the disappearance of the middle class and the lengths families go to in order to obtain that quality of life again. Wendy, Marty, Charlotte, and Jonah make up the nuclear family, the idealized family that has been heavily propagated within our culture for the better half of a century. This nuclear family gets their conventional life ripped out from under them and has to relocate to a new area in pursuit of money-making opportunities. Leave out the cartel for a second, and this kind of stuff has happened to my family and many other American families out there after the third or fourth economic collapse in like the past decade. And with the second housing crisis on the way, I'm assuming Ozark is going to relate to more and more families. Agent Petty looks at members of the cartel not as criminal geniuses, but as pathological liars on the path of least resistance. Who would have guessed that in episode 1, Petty would be describing Wendy? But I think there's more to it than what Petty thinks. Petty has a very black and white view of how the world works. Wendy and Marty's journey through Ozark shows us this blurred line between the criminal activity exhibited by the cartel and how these politicians families and businesses operate. They even go as far as to have the FBI essentially team up with the cartel to make the point that these organizations running the country and the world are going to value a surplus of cash flow no matter where it's coming from. In season 1, episode 7, Nestbox, Jonah states that drug money props up the US economy and mentions the theory that drug money was the only thing that prevented the collapse of the global economy in 2008, as drug money was the only cash available to prop up big banks.
Not to mention the 350 million narco dollars that paid for bridges and roads and healthcare, probably even education. Maybe even part of this school.
Drug money goes on to fund the Byrde Family Foundation, helping Wendy become one of the most influential political figures in the South. And we see throughout the series how Marty's money laundering ventures prop up small businesses and create businesses to help grow the local economy. The deal where the FBI is working directly with the cartel is emblematic of the entire system that is only sustained by unethical or illegal means. The Byrde family and their involvement with the cartel is a byproduct of a worsening economy. With the decline of security and peace of mind, it ignites the rise of desperation and criminal behavior. Marty's main reason for joining the cartel was the fact that he would never have to worry about money again. So I feel like what Jason Bateman and friends are trying to say with Ozark is that the Byrde family is the new age nuclear family, and the criminal activity that they've become notorious for has become part of the modern American dream. Season 4 further solidifies this notion, as the alleged good guys who do their actual job are defeated by those who operate with an unconventional set of rules and code, as Mel, trying to do the right thing, dies in a similar fashion as Officer Nix, who for once was trying to do the right thing. I thought it was interesting how Mel was fired from the Chicago PD after he was caught treating himself to some drugs in the evidence locker, falling victim to the addiction that's caused by the cartel's products. This heavily influenced his decision to leave the Chicago PD again and then pursue the Byrdes again. In the earlier seasons of Ozark, I thought this very green color grade was a great way to give off the vibe of the Ozarks, as well as represent the money-driven world they live in. This is contrasted with the blue color grade to represent the supposed tranquil life in Chicago. After this constant struggle of trying to regain their life in Chicago, the Byrdes finally obtain it in the end, which is why the fundraiser is absolutely caked in blue. The clothing that the Byrdes wear in season 4 progressively gets more blue, like right here before the fundraiser when Wendy and Charlotte are wearing blue. It's funny how the Byrdes fought so hard to get their life back in Chicago, but you know, what kind of life was that? Before they moved to the Ozarks, Wendy was discontent with her marriage and decided to have an affair. Marty was obnoxiously frugal and operated in this cold, mundane way. In Chicago, their family was basically falling apart, but their time in the Ozarks reunited them as well as strengthened their family. In fact, Jonah has become just like Marty, and Charlotte has become just like Wendy. Jonah begins laundering money at 15. He didn't need Marty's software to launder money for Ruth because he was able to write his own. Charlotte manipulates Aaron into making sure that she and her father don't look further into the disappearance of Helen. The same kind of manipulation that Wendy does every single moment of the day. Charlotte even has Wendy's temper. At the end of season 4, everyone seems to be passing the torch, like how Ruth catches Ronnie up on everything that he needs to know about the cartel's presence in the Ozarks. Maya is still trying to pursue the Byrdes off the books, and Navarro is replaced by Navarro 2.0. And this cycle will continue. In fact, it will probably get worse. Okay, I think that concludes part 3. Listen guys, I got something to say. I very much appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving this channel for the past few weeks. I really like making these Ozark videos, and I think if I made a part 4, I would definitely focus more on the behind the scenes kind of stuff. Oh, also, subscribe. I completely forgot. We're almost at 1 million subscribers. All we need is just slightly over 800,000 more, and we're set. I think we can hit it this month. Just tell your friends. As always, thank you for watching.